Okay, I'm actually going to post this video. It's in response to somebody else's, which is just so full of superciliousness. And it doesn't even completely correlate with the video the other guy was talking about. And the other guy is missing a lot. Because I don't think he can think of recent history, nor can he think of history back into the 50s and 60s and 70s. Or even the 80s, which is asking kind of far back there, but anyway. The comment from was something to this effect of, I was thinking the other day of when we rebuild America that we need to incorporate living space into our workspace with little pods of necessities. Okay. Little pods of necessities. One, I don't want to be in a little pod, because being in a little pod, unless I'm surrounded by books and able to do my reading or something of that, I would lose my sanity. And how are we going to do that when we got this lame way of thinking that we're going to have little pods of necessities? Oh, running short on bricklayers, but how is a bricklayer going to have a pod of necessity? What's he going to be like? Hey, Earl, look what I got over here, man. I put this in my pot of necessity today. I got a whole bunch of Werther's Originals, and I got some tea. Earl. Got some tea right here. Made it nice and fresh 5 minutes ago. Want to have some tea? No, Frank. We got to finish this damn wall because it's going to rain tomorrow, and we're going to work later tonight because, we're not working in the rain tomorrow, and neither one of us want to miss any hours. This whole idea of pods of necessities are just for the people who think they're actually intellectual, and they can just sit there and pontificate on things and not actually have ever met the real world. And because one of my favorite things was when I had a professor that said, well, why did carpentry going through college? I'm like, you did carpentry going through college in the nice days during the summer, and when you went back to college, back when you could actually pay for your college by working in the summer. So your carpentry skills mean nothing to me because I did it most of my life, and I really don't think you could actually frame a building or explain how this building is put together that we're standing in. So you can kindly sit down and shut up. Because shortly after that, he'd proceed to use phrases and such that would insult people that labor as non-thinkers and as things such as that. But I want to get back on track here, but I'm just trying to set to you the idea of the people that we are dealing with, because I've dealt with them and I've had long, drawn out conversations in college classes and outside of them.
I didn't understand what you said.
Because I wasn't talking to you, Car. So, the whole phrase to me is just actually kind of jarring with shock and ignorance that we need to rebuild America. When we rebuild America, we need to integrate our workspace with little pods of necessities. Well, it's always amazing when a certain group says rebuild America, they're chastised and all kinds of things. Right? When the other groups talk about rebuilding America, they are doing it for the benefit of society, and they're the ones that know how to do it. You know, I work pretty dang hard, and you know, I do have this little office, but I don't spend a lot of time in it. I file papers, I do some ordering, I send my emails, yada, yada, yada. But I notice everybody that does have the office that they work in continually, they already have their little necessities, their little pictures, their little encouragements they use to get through the day. So I don't know how that already doesn't exist for those who don't have a office space. I survived the hell of working in a call center for about a week, and that was just insanity to me, because I don't know how people do that. But I guess we don't have to worry about that anymore, because it's more and more being farmed out to people we can't even understand. So what do people actually do for little necessities that, you know, can't do that? That it's really not even practical, because you're there to do your job, take your breaks, and go home. And I mean, the ideal thing is just your 10-hour day, your 10 o'clock break, or lunch, and your afternoon break. I mean, that's ideal. But working in construction, that really wasn't even that possible, because, you know, and I didn't care. I actually enjoyed it more than not, because sometimes just working through a break and finishing a job was the freaking ultimate thing. Because if you're working setting trusses, which somebody actually suggested we do, you can't really stop the crane, because that's like $200 an hour. And then you got to get up there and reset yourself anyway, and reset your brain, when you could just power through it, get those trusses set, get your bracing, get your A bracing set up, and lock it down, and get, you know. Where did construction workers get their little pods of necessity? We had them in our truck. You had your radio, you had a couple snacks, you'd sit there and you'd bullshit. So it's not like these things don't exist. I mean, in factories, which you had your little stuff you could put in your workspace, maybe your pictures or something on your toolboxes that remind you what you're working for. So this is just so super silly to me. It's like, why? What is this? Why? What is this? Pods of necessities. Do you get to go to a pod? Do you get to have your own pod on your job where you can just, turn on some Gregorian chant, take some tea, or, listen to Vedas and Hindu Vedas and have some tea, I mean, what is it? Now, when I get onto this, it's frustrating to me. When we get down to the video, it was even more. I'm going to make this phrase because it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. Existentially stupid to the point of infinity, of stupidity. He was talking about Europe and how we need to build America like Europe. We need to take our downtowns and we need to have the third place for people where they can congregate and be together because they have that in Europe and it's where people go, right? It's just where people go. That they have their pubs and other hubs for the third place. Now that's a sociological term that people use. Or you go to separate your work from and home from everything else. And it's a point of congregation. Well, the guy was saying we're just too spread out and we have too many cars and we just can't do that because we're Europe. Well, we need to do that. We need to build our downtowns into places like that. Well, you know what? We had that. Even in suburbia, we had that, essentially had the third place that they were talking about. But I've still been trying to decide what killed the third place in society. Because in the sociology classes, the third place was like a third place for men. For lack of a better term, taking your kids to the playground, it'd be like an adult playground of thoughts and ideas or physicality. Or gaming or something. Now, we had so much that in different forms, we still do have that. Right? The problem is too many people live in that third place. Like gaming. And if we look at that, well, let's just take gaming. That's kind of taken away the physical third places, hasn't it? Because that's just become a place online where people go. Now, my problem with that always has been you really don't know these people, and they could be anybody. And, they're actually presenting themselves in whatever fashion they want. Maybe some of them have integrity and honor, and they're actually just being who they are. But as we all know, in many cases, that's not it. So the trust factor is really never there. And I don't think it should be. I don't think it should be. I don't have trust factor for a lot of people until I actually get to know them. And the only way you do that is to be with them and rate their body language and rate their language and their reactions. But, and that's how people wind up kicked out of people's quote unquote third places. Now, in the past, we had a lot of those third places. We had the Moose Club, the Elks Club. You had Masonic clubs, and yeah, I don't even come at me about Masons because that's not my point. My aunts had their third places, sometimes in each other's homes. They would go to each other's homes and they'd have coffee cakes and they would have coffees and teas and such, and they would just sit there and they'd chat during the day. And yeah, I grew up in the day when that was just starting to end and being taken over by the idiocracy. But the women had that. So the idea that women were alone back in the 60s and 70s is absolute bullshit. They had each other. This will be another conversation. But they had that third place. Now, your other third place would have been your churches. That would have been your family community that you went to and you joined together in a communion of spirit. Now, the other thing being here in Wisconsin is we've got bars on corner after corner. We've got bars next to bars. At one point, we had 3 bars next to each other. There was 3 different bars next door to each other. I always thought that was amusing. Like, did they get out and do bar fights and at 2 a.m.? Did they go out there and or maybe they went out and did dance offs or something? I don't know. I just find it completely amusing. You had 3 competing bars. And the guy was talking about that. Oh, well, we need to have these third places for people to go to and communicate. Well, the idea of the third place was a separate place where you'd have like your men's clubs, your women's clubs, and you could talk about guy things and women things. You could bitch about whatever you had to while you were working at something or relaxing. And my favorite one was oh my god, what was that? Frank Barone, whatever that club was. They had the pool, they had the bar, and the guys would just get together and and talk and watch TV. And I remember there's a bookshelf on the set of that. So we had them, and in some ways we still do. It's just we don't communicate with each other. We have this thing that everybody thinks we have an opinion, and I guess myself included right now, thinks it needs to be shared. And that's just to the point of ridiculousness that so many people think every day they have something they need to share with the world. and that people have become famous with this. But I think that reflects more on we're just willing to sit here and watch somebody on a screen or listen to somebody on a screen. We had book clubs people used to go to and talk about books and ideas. But now our book clubs are online, and I found some of them, and they're actually pretty interesting. But they really don't take the place of physical talking, being together, sharing coffee or a tea, and discussing things. And, churches speaks for itself. Like I said, that was your sacred third place. That was your sacred third place. And, well, I'm watching something on the corner of my ear. And, so there's literally different kinds of third places. So how does that make pockets of necessities? How does that happen? When there's literally so many different types of third places. You've got pubs, you've got religious spaces, you've got gaming spaces, and, some of them are more, people are more inclinated to. Your third place is not inside your job. That's another place. That's where you want to separate from. You don't want to bring your work home with you. And you don't always want to bring your home to work with you. I mean, we all do it sometimes. You want to have that little positive picture in the corner of your office or in your wallet or on your desk or on your toolbox, or maybe you're in construction, on your dashboard. You want that stuff. You want that. I just don't think people really know what they're talking about. Oh, this is going long, isn't it? Because all around us are the third places, and we've either destroyed them or abandoned them, or we've turned them into something else. Or we've just completely turned it into something else. Like I said, this video gaming, that's a third place. And I really don't think it's a healthy third place for various reasons. And I think it's probably one of the unhealthiest is because you don't actually socially interact physically. You don't do that. You're not greeting somebody like with a handshake or a bro hug and saying, "Hey man, good to see you again. How have you been doing?" Because in your third place, you'd have that. If you're in your men's club, it'd have been like, "Hey, how's it going?" Did you get that sorted out? Did you get your roof fixed? Did you get your, do you need any help with anything? Okay? So you're on your video game space, and that's the new third place for too many people, and you're not getting anything solved. You don't have that social interaction. You don't have that handshake. You don't have that bro hug or anything such as that, because it's not a real space. I think the most wretched thing the guy did in that little snippet of the video is like comparing us to Europe. Saying, oh, well, we're all spread out. We're all too many cars and blah, blah, blah. We're too far apart. It's not that we're too far apart physically, because cars compensate for that, don't they? There's that compensation. But we're too far apart physically because we're too apart virtually, and we're too far apart in every other way. We have been so divided and so ripped apart that the free flow of ideas is actually seen as objectionable and threatening. And this virtual space has turned us into this just echo chamber of, yeah, you're right, you're fucking right, man, yeah, fuck them. This is on both sides. I think it is more on one side, because I think the one side, though we're deemed ignorant, actually knows just to shut the shit off. We actually know to walk away. Though some of us won't. You keep pushing people to a point, and no, they will not walk away, and that is on both sides, but one side always seems more ready to attack, but I'm trying to stay away from that. But I think this whole thing actually represents that, because the opening line in that post was, when we rebuild America, this is what we need to do. You know, we had that. We even had that in the 80s. It was the mall. You remember the malls? Kids would go out there, hang out in areas. My mom and her friends would go and they get their hair done. And they walk around the shop. They'd go to Marshall Fields. They'd have a little lunch together with their sisters and friends. And they'd get together, they'd socialize, and they had that on top of church. So it's not like we didn't have them. It's not like they can't still exist. But we destroyed them, and we destroyed them virtually in a lot of ways, didn't we? Because it's just been replaced. Like I said, online book clubs. Okay. I mean, even in school, you had, oh my God, I remember looking through, it's a post. There was a mandolin club. You had your rifle team clubs. You had all kinds of crap. You just didn't have a band class. You'd have spaces outside of that for people who wanted to get better at what they were doing. Right? Now that's just limited to sports largely. I mean, there's like a robotics club where I'm at, but it's really not much. But somebody's trying. And I think both these people really aren't thinking, and they have this erasure of recent memory and in history. My God, if you go downtown and you look at the buildings, there was buildings for the Independent Order of Fosters, the Masons, the Elks, and they'd have their little stamp on the buildings. And you had these other groups that were like that. We had the Oddfellows clubs. They still exist. But you'd see these little bricks. And people were so dedicated to these clubs and groups that they would have buildings built to commiserate. So it's not like they didn't exist. They did exist. But I really think the 60s and 70s destroyed it. I think they destroyed a lot of these things. I think that was the first assault on the family, was destroying these clubs in that nonsense because, oh, women don't have this. Yes, they did have that. They did have that. My mom was part of these groups. My aunts were part of these groups. And they had their get-togethers outside. Like I said, they get their hair done. They go to have luncheons. They'd have card games during the day. It's not like they were freaking trapped inside of a house all damn day, because anybody knows it doesn't take all damn day to clean a house. Anybody who's done it knows that you weren't canning food every day, that it was maybe a 1-day, 2-day process, and that the women would get together and they would help each other do this, and they had healthier freaking food for people. So how do you create a whole different thing? Yeah, end it. You destroy it. You make them feel like they're impoverished, and you make them feel like they're slaves, and you take away these spaces from the men because they have it and the women don't, even though they did. It's like growing up, I helped my uncles repair each other's houses. And my dad, they'd do each other's roofs. They'd do this, they'd do these things. And they'd share these things that would happen. And that was part of the community. Now nobody knows how to do this shit. And these skills are lost. And what benefited from that? More consumerism. I think consumerism largely had an effect on destroying everything because it created something else. Because they're trying to rebuild society. We got to rebuild society because it's all unfair. It's all unfair. We got to create the third spaces. Well, we fucking had them. Dear God, y'all destroyed it with your constantly trying to rebuild society with your progressive freaking bullshit. Because I'm sitting here watching everybody talk about getting back to what we had. And then I'm watching these people I grew up with acting like these third places didn't exist. Well, for some of them, they didn't because they grew up in single parent families. Or both family parents had to work because all of a sudden that had to happen. Because somehow we decided that staying home and taking care of children, which we fought for thousands of years to get to, was needless. And that'll be my next conversation. Because I think that was the first destruction. I think that was part of the first destruction of third places, family, and everything else. But here we are watching people, oh, we need to get back to this. Well, there's only one way back. And it's not to rebuild society, it's to take back society. It's to take back society. Because what they're talking about is some abomination of Dunbar's number, which is one of the most interesting numbers and easiest to understand you can ever find in life. It really is. But the problem is we've been toppled with ignorance under the guise of intelligence. And it's just getting worse. Anyway, beware when people start talking about these third places, because we had them. We just need to take them back. And we can't take them back sitting behind a computer screen, or, you know, am I kind of for book clubs that are online? Yeah, I am. But really, what replaces face-to-face communication? What replaces a letter? An email doesn't. And this is just my last aside here, because in basic training or other places when I was away from people, getting a letter was so freaking awesome. Getting a letter from your wife with little spurts of perfume, and reading her handwriting. And because you've been alone so damn long, you're tracing the handwriting with your finger, and you're just smelling the perfume. You're smelling the house, or sometimes you can smell what they made for dinner that night on that letter, because you're so attuned to it, because it's something you miss so greatly. Or getting a letter from a friend that's across the state. This is before internet was, when I was a kid. That was cool. That was so great. Somebody took the time to do something. Somebody took that time to write a letter and write their thoughts, their day, and communicate with you. And it's different physically holding it. Can you pick up that computer screen and feel the textures? Can you get the aromas? No. So if you're in a book club online, are you able to pick up the book? You can pick up your book. Are you sitting next to somebody hearing those pages rustle? Are you sharing that experience in its entirety? If you're in a chess club online, are you hearing the other player move those pieces on the chessboard? Are you able to watch them and where their hand moves? Are you able to watch them if they're faking you or something, if they're thinking too hard, or are they taking too long to get a drink? You can't get these things, right? You lose the nuance by not having a physical third place. And we had them, but we destroyed them. And yes, the internet just helped destroy this shit. But my point is, got to come to an end because I got to get into work. And the whole idea that is rebuild, why don't we have to just take it back? I mean, the idea that we have to rebuild it is somebody's trying to rebuild it in their ideas. And their ideas are the one that count. Otherwise, we can take back what we had and have the different clubs. You know, because we got the pubs. Our shopping centers are gone. So fuck Amazon. I'm sorry. Even though I had to order some crap from there yesterday. We don't go out. We have people that sit in their cars and order groceries online. Or they order them to the house. We don't even go out and do that. I mean, we do, but we're getting less apt to do that because there's only 2 registers open and 10 lines of people. I remember Locally's where I grew up, we had like 20 lanes of registers that would be open on the weekend. At night we'd have like 5 registers, 7, 10 registers, so people could get in and out. And most often there's conversations between the checkers and the baggers and the customers. And now it's just pure aggravation on the sides of both, because everybody's aggravated and pissed off, and when they're getting their groceries. And man, that's just really something to think. When you're going out to buy something that's supposed to be nutritious for your body, you're pissed off and angry. You're just angry. And I think that's reflective of the whole thing, is all this anger that has come in to destroy things, because you have to destroy something to bring in something new. So you have to incite anger and divide. And that's how we lost our third places to begin with. We belittled the people that went to them. We belittled the guys that went to the Elks Club and Moose Club, and we belittled them. And usually they belong to something. They'd get together and they'd watch TV at the bar, watch the games at the bars, or they'd get together and watch them at the club, or they just do their community outreach and try to help that way. But we destroyed it. Anyway, like I said, I got to get to work. But yeah, it's not rebuild America. It's take back. It is take back. It's take back in every sense of the word. It's taking back production. And yeah, I believe in it. But we can't, when we rebuild this shit, we can't give it to the corporatist. Do we need larger corporations for some things? Yeah, we do. But we also need the franchises. We need the independents. This is so much more than what people actually will ever begin to understand, because we can't have these conversations without anger and calling names. And this is why the third places will never exist. They'll have these little microcosm third places. And if you want to look at a German beer hall as a third place, where everybody got together for celebrations and after work, or large dining halls. Dear God, I like Chili's, but come on. What's corporate food? It's not even food anymore. Every time I go out to eat, my gut hurts like hell. It'd be better to have something different, and we have to take it back. It's not rebuilding. Because rebuilding is on the destruction of something. And I don't think that's what people get. And that's what I think they're actually saying.